The suitcase was already zipped when I walked out of the bathroom. He didn't look up, just sat on the edge of our bed, tying his shoes like this was routine. Like this wasn't the same apartment where we argued over crib colors a week ago. Like I wasn't still bleeding from the prenatal procedure they said was routine, but left me sore and sleep-deprived. "You'll be fine," he said. His tone wasn't cruel. It was clinical, like a doctor delivering bad news without staying to answer questions. Then he stood, adjusted the collar of the shirt I'd ironed that morning, and added, "Eventually." He leaned in like he was going to kiss me, not on the lips, on the forehead, like a parent sending off a child. "You'll be nothing without me," he said, soft like a final diagnosis. Then he walked out, rolling the suitcase behind him. The door clicked, not a slam, just a polite finish. I was 27. My name was Elise Grant. I lived in a 600-square-foot apartment in Dayton, Ohio. I worked part-time behind a skincare counter at a failing department store. My last paycheck was 2 weeks late. I was unemployed, 36 weeks pregnant, and I had exactly $264 in my bank account. I didn't cry. I noted the absence of noise. The kitchen faucet that had been dripping for 3 weeks had stopped. The radiator, usually groaning through the night, was silent. I could hear the hum of the hallway light bulb through the door. He didn't take the TV, he took the router. That was the first fracture I felt. Not emotional, practical. He knew I'd need Wi-Fi to apply for state assistance, look for remote work, join prenatal support groups. He also knew I didn't know the neighbor's password. There was a yellow sticky note on the fridge. "You should probably call your mom." It was signed with a smiley face, a passive weapon. I folded it in half and dropped it into the trash under a paper towel with dried spaghetti sauce on it. I walked to the fridge. 3 eggs, a rattling bottle of vitamins. That was enough information. At night, I played classical music from a pre-downloaded playlist. I pressed my phone to my stomach because I'd read that neural pathways responded to music. The baby kicked during Bach. She was quiet during Mozart. 5 nights later, the music stopped. The playlist had expired. The signal was gone. I didn't panic. I just stared at the ceiling and understood something. This wasn't heartbreak. It was logistics. He hadn't just walked out. He'd premeditated the collapse. 2 weeks before he left, he accidentally sent our utility login to his personal email. A week before that, he moved all shared documents off Google Drive. 4 days before he packed, he took his name off the lease. He had left before he left. Still, I told no one. Not even the OB nurse who asked at my next appointment, "Is the father still involved?" I said yes. I didn't want pity. Pity doesn't solve anything. It just multiplies. The receptionist asked if I had someone to drive me home. I said yes. I walked. It was January. My coat didn't zip anymore. When I passed by a Walgreens window, I looked at myself and didn't recognize the reflection. That night, I opened my laptop. It took 5 minutes to boot. No internet. I stared at the screen, then at the power cable coiled next to the wall, then at the ring. It was still in the drawer where he left his wristwatch and charger. I picked it up. Platinum band. 1 tiny diamond. A receipt still folded underneath it. He never changed the shipping address when he ordered it. I pawned it the next day. $482. That covered a month of Wi-Fi, a used iPhone 6, and a second-hand tripod I bought from a guy named Rico who asked too many questions and kept calling me ma'am. I started filming at night. I didn't show my face. I didn't talk about him. I just narrated how to make oatmeal 5 ways for under $10. Then I tried one about DIY diaper wipes using paper towels and coconut oil. Then one about stretching a $40 grocery bill across 7 days. I didn't post anything, not yet. I was testing my voice, listening to how I sounded when I wasn't afraid. One night, I heard myself say, "You don't need more. You just need to make it work." I didn't realize I was talking to myself. 3 days later, I created an account. No profile picture, no bio. I uploaded the oatmeal video. 3 views, 1 comment. "Why is this so calming?" I didn't reply, but I read that comment at least 20 times. The baby kicked again that night. Hard. I pressed my palm to my belly and whispered what I now knew. "You'll never need him, and neither will I." I didn't turn the heat on that February. Not because I was being noble, because the electric bill had passed due. Because the stillness made her breathing louder than the world. Her name was Mara. 7 pounds, 9 ounces, born 3 weeks after he left. I labored alone, no panic, no screams, just a nurse named Carla who stayed 2 hours past her shift because she said, "You shouldn't have to do this alone, even if you can." Mara didn't cry much the first night, neither did I, not even when they wheeled her into my arms and said, "She's strong, you're lucky." I didn't feel lucky. I felt clear, like something had been removed, painful, but necessary. When they asked about the father's name for the birth certificate, I left it blank. I said, "Undecided." The clerk nodded like she'd heard that before. We went home in a borrowed car seat a nurse donated, the kind with fading straps and a forgotten sticker that said, "If found, call Aunt Lisa." The apartment hadn't changed. The lights still flickered. The faucet still leaked. The space heater still hummed when I plugged it in, even though it smelled faintly like burning dust and bad wiring. I placed Mara in a laundry basket lined with towels and 2 folded t-shirts. She slept. I didn't. Instead, I stared at the ceiling and calculated how many diapers I had left, how long the can of formula would last, how fast I could move between feedings if I wanted to start filming again. I didn't text him, not even when she looked exactly like him on day 3. That face eventually softened. The features became mine. The eyes stopped reminding me of the things he took and started showing me what I had left to build with. When Mara was 2 weeks old, I made my second video. This time I looked into the camera. No makeup, no ring light, just my face, the grainy light from a dollar store desk lamp, and the kind of exhaustion you don't confess out loud. I said, "This is how you get through the night when your baby won't sleep and you've got $5 left?" The video got 17 views, 2 likes, 1 DM from a woman in Wichita who said, "I'm 3 weeks in." I thought I was the only one eating crackers at 2 a.m. I didn't answer right away, but I kept making videos. They weren't about inspiration. They were about survival. How to swaddle with 1 arm. How to make cloth wipes from old t-shirts. How to reheat coffee 3 times without losing your mind. I didn't have a niche. I had a need. At night, after Mara slept, usually curled against my chest with 1 foot wedged under my rib cage, I would film, whisper voiceovers, edit on a lagging phone, post around 2 a.m. when I knew no one else was watching. And yet, they did. By the end of month 2, I had 400 followers, then 1,200, then 5,000. Not viral, not explosive, but consistent. Mostly women, mostly single, mostly tired. They left comments like breadcrumbs. "This saved me. Finally, someone gets it. I thought I was failing until I saw this." I never replied with sympathy. I replied with links. PDFS, resources, efficiency over emotion. That's how you survive. At night, when Mara nursed, I read forums on affiliate links, SEO tags, video batching, branding basics. I didn't know how to market myself, so I marketed the silence. Calm, real, clean. I learned to cut dead space, add subtitles, use ambient audio over filters. The apartment was cold but quiet, and in that quiet, something started to grow. Not just an audience, a skill set, a rhythm, a brand. I named the channel Quiet Rise. No one knew my name. I didn't want them to. The first brand deal came in at 3:11 a.m. A small baby food company, one email, $100 gift card in exchange for a post. I accepted, used the gift card, filmed a review, got 12,000 views. They sent another offer, this time $300 cash. That month, I paid rent without touching savings. The next month, I didn't need savings at all. Mara started sitting up around the same time I started hitting 10,000 per video. She would laugh when I adjusted the tripod, babble when I did voiceovers. Some of that made it into the edits. The audience liked it. They called her the assistant. I never showed her face. I never said her name. He would have known her. He might have found her, but I was done letting people find things they'd abandoned. I had a schedule now. Record from 1 to 3 a.m., edit from 9 to 11 a.m., nap while Mara napped, post at noon, engage comments from 6 to 8 p.m., repeat. There were days I thought about him, not with longing, with calculation. If he were watching, would he recognize this? Would he see the brand, the audience? Would he notice the voice that no longer trembled when it said, "You don't need them? You need you." And would he realize she was better off never knowing the man who couldn't wait one more trimester? The name Quiet Rise was never meant to be poetic. It was descriptive, accurate, a record of what I was doing in real time, growing steadily while saying nothing. I didn't promote. I didn't beg for shares. I didn't cry into the camera. I just kept making videos. Practical ones, efficient ones, ones that answered questions no one else was asking publicly. How do you wash baby clothes with no dryer? What can you feed a 6-month-old on $3 a day? What do you say when someone asks where the father is and you don't want to cry in the canned goods aisle? Mara hit 6 months the week I crossed 50,000 subscribers. I didn't celebrate. I took the check from a diaper brand and paid off the 3-month electric bill balance in full. The heat came back that day. The apartment felt smaller, warmer, almost unfamiliar, like I'd walked into someone else's life. Mara didn't notice. She'd never known the cold. Because I never let her. By the time she could stand, I was running affiliate campaigns and had hired help. None of it was visible. No personal photos, no stories, no confessions, just tutorials, product breakdowns, survival checklists, voiceovers, and 3-second brand intros with clean white text over a gray screen. Quiet Rise. Build anyway. My face was in maybe 1 in 20 videos. When it was, the comments usually said things like, "Your voice doesn't match your face. You sound so calm, but your eyes look like they've seen too much. You remind me of my mom. She didn't cry either." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. The emails started coming in from small business vendors, then from larger ones, then from venture capital firms who thought I was a team, some media company with great instincts and niche dominance. I replied to none of them personally. My freelancer-turned-project manager, Sienna, handled brand inboxes and comment moderation. She once asked, "Why don't you ever do interviews?" I said the point was to disappear while building. She never asked again. Somewhere between Mara's 3rd and 4th birthday, I incorporated, not for clout, for protection. Elise Grant disappeared that year. Quiet Rise Holdings was born. I moved us into a modest duplex. Mara had a bedroom of her own, decorated with things she picked herself: a stuffed penguin, glow-in-the-dark stars, and a blanket with a smiling avocado on it. She called it her galaxy. We had routines now: oatmeal at 7, walks at 10, work blocks between 1 and 4 while she colored next to me, story time at 8, editing from 10 to midnight. I told her I worked in videos that help people. She said she wanted to help too. She'd hand me post-it notes with scribbles and say, "This is for the mommies who are sad." I kept everyone. The empire didn't come fast. It came methodically, like compound interest, like water shaping stone. By the time Mara started kindergarten, I'd published my first digital course, Quiet Rise: Building a Life When the Noise Won't Save You. No dramatic title, no sob story intro, just modules, frameworks, and case studies of what worked when you had no money, no partner, and no backup. It sold out in 3 days. People started quoting it in newsletters, blog posts, even one TEDx talk I never agreed to be named in. And still, no face, no voice attached to a full name, no story that pointed back to him, because I didn't care if he saw it. This wasn't revenge, it was rebuilding. But the algorithm doesn't discriminate. One of my videos got picked up by a channel he followed. I only know because of the email that arrived a week later. Subject line: "Hey, it's been a while." His name, his words. I opened it, read it once, then again. He said he'd seen a video, said the voice sounded weirdly familiar, said he was in between jobs and wondered if I had connections in the influencer space. I didn't reply. I didn't archive it. I just let it sit there, unread again. Not because I was shocked, but because I'd always known this day would come. People like him don't stay gone. They circle back when you've cleaned up the mess they made because they assume you've saved a seat for them. I hadn't. Mara asked one night why I looked distracted. I said, "Sometimes the past tries to knock." She asked, "Do we open the door?" I said, "Only if it's bringing groceries." She laughed. I didn't. I remember the first time they laughed at me. It was a reaction video. A faceless man, early 20s, smug tone, TikTok handle filled with numbers, had stitched one of my early uploads. He replayed my oatmeal breakdown, mimicked my calm voice, then asked his audience, "Ladies, is this rock bottom or just Tuesday?" It got over 300,000 likes. The comments rolled in. "She sounds like she's 5 missed calls away from a breakdown." Imagine being proud of struggle meals. Someone tell her she's not inspirational. She's just broke. I didn't cry. I downloaded the video, filed it in a folder labeled Documented Misunderstanding. I watched it once. Not to analyze his voice, to analyze mine. I saw how still I was, how even my breath didn't hitch. That kind of control takes years to earn. They didn't know that. So I kept posting. The next week I released a video titled $35 Grocery Plan, No Crying Involved. It opened with, "Here's how to build a week of meals when your ex leaves and takes the Wi-Fi password but not the guilt." That one hit 1.4 million views. Suddenly the comments changed. Why does this feel like a survival guide from the future? She's not sad. She's surgical. I came to laugh, stayed to learn, now I'm hooked. And from one woman, "I watched your videos in a shelter. I'm 6 months out now, just wanted to say thank you." I printed that one, taped it to the inside of my pantry door. The more they mocked, the cleaner I got. No emotion, no deviation, just systems. The more they tried to trivialize me, the more evidence I gathered. Evidence that clarity sells. That silence isn't weakness, it's packaging. That emotional control in a woman is mistaken for emptiness by men who've only seen volatility used as a performance. The DMs got worse before they got better. Marry me and make me oatmeal, LOL. Bet your baby daddy regrets it now. You look like you give amazing silent treatment. I didn't block them. I didn't respond. I flagged and archived them, then sent them to my community manager under the tag pattern recognition. My audience wasn't just women now. It was single dads, burned-out teachers, veterans, night shift workers, people who didn't want content. They wanted protocols. I gave them what I built, a method, a mindset, a modular income stream that didn't require a ring light or a sad story. My second course stripped out the fluff. Just tools, just execution. It made 6 figures in 6 days. That week, my PayPal was flagged for unusual volume. I verified the ID. They released the funds. I invested 80%, saved 15%, donated 5%, anonymously. The messages from brands got more aggressive. Can we put your face on our homepage? Would you consider a podcast with your story arc? Your origin story has massive appeal. Can we co-brand it with a single mom empowerment campaign? Number, absolutely not. Because this wasn't about empowering others by bleeding for them. This was about demonstrating that you can move silently, surgically, and still leave a crater. He emailed again. This time the subject line said, "No hard feelings?" Still polite, still transactional. He wrote, "I just need a warm intro. I'm not asking for a job, just advice. You were always good at fixing things." I left it unopened, but I read the preview 5 times because something about "you were always good at fixing things" made me pause. He thought I was still repairing, still reacting. He didn't understand that I hadn't rebuilt what he broke. I'd built something entirely new, without blueprint, without cheerleaders, without shortcuts, and none of it had room for his name. That weekend, I attended an event, not to speak, to observe. It was a closed-door affiliate marketing summit, high ticket, invite only. They seated me in the front row. One of the panelists mentioned Quiet Rise as an anonymous case study, called it a masterclass in non-narrative trust building. I didn't blink. The person next to me said, "Wonder who runs it? Probably a team in Austin or somewhere, right?" I said, "Probably." Then took a sip of water. There's a particular high that comes from knowing your work has a fingerprint, but no face. It means no one knows where to aim. It means no one can ruin what they can't locate. He'd sent one more email while I was at the event. No subject line, just 2 words in the body. "Please, Elise?" I didn't answer. I didn't delete it either. I archived it next to the comment that said, "Imagine being proud of struggle meals." Every comment that mocked me was proof that I didn't win because I healed. I won because I worked, and I never stopped. I didn't recognize the name on the email at first. It wasn't his personal address. It was a corporate one, branded with the logo of a mid-tier media tech startup, one I quietly held a 12% equity stake in under an alias. The subject line read, "Candidate Inquiry, Creative Strategy Role." I almost deleted it. I get dozens of those a week. Most are unremarkable. Most get filtered. But something about the phrasing caught my eye. Former content strategist with cross-platform experience seeking re-entry into influencer support. I opened it. His name was 3rd line down. No introduction, no apology. Just a bullet-pointed resume. One that included terms like narrative monetization, brand empathy cycles, and story-based ROI. All words he used to mock me for. In the space labeled Relevant Experience, he listed, "Built digital campaigns for single mother influencer vertical." I reread that twice. There it was. Subtle, Cowardly. He didn't say me, but he meant me. And the worst part was, he thought it would help him. The footer of the email included a note. I believe I'd be a strong fit. Happy to discuss via Zoom. Hope this message finds you well. Signed with his full name. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the HR dashboard. My name isn't listed anywhere on the public org chart. That's by design. I'm the controlling shareholder. The one who sees applications before anyone else does. The one who approves final hires. I read through his resume. He'd padded his employment dates, glossed over the 2-year gap after he walked out, probably explained it away in interviews as a transitional phase. It wasn't. I knew that. I'd heard from a mutual once. He'd been let go from 3 agencies in 5 years. Insubordination, missed targets, personality conflicts. Translation, he couldn't lead. He couldn't follow. He couldn't last. I opened a new window and ran a soft audit through the internal database. He'd applied to 3 of my holding companies in the last 6 months, each time under a slight variation of his title, each time targeting departments I built, systems I engineered. He didn't know who owned them, didn't know I was the approval gate. He thought he was knocking on a stranger's door. He didn't know I'd built the whole street. I flagged his application, not for deletion, for internal routing. I forwarded it to HR with a single instruction. Standard courtesy call. Confirm experience. Decline politely. No callback. Professional. Clean. Cold. Mara was sitting across from me when I sent it. She was drawing a picture of a castle with no doors. I asked her why. She said, "So the bad ones can't get in unless you want them to." She didn't know how poetic that was. She just said it and moved on. Started coloring in the grass. I looked at her, then back at the email. He was still trying to enter the world I built, still pretending he had a key. He didn't. That night, I reviewed analytics across all 6 platforms. Revenue was up. Engagement was climbing. The new series, Systems Over Sadness, was outperforming projections by 41%. One comment on the most recent post read, "You're the blueprint. I followed your grocery guides when I had $20 and no gas money. Now I freelance full-time. Still watching." I screenshotted it, saved it to the same folder as his resume. A week passed. HR confirmed the call. He said he respected Quiet Rise, called the tone dignified desperation. Dignified desperation. He thought he was complimenting me. He thought the silence was a symptom, not a strategy. He thought I was still hungry. What he didn't realize was that hunger made me build systems, and systems made me immune to being broken twice. The HR rep said he'd sounded eager, polished, slightly arrogant. They asked if I wanted to add a personal note to the rejection. I said no. Silence would suffice. The rejection was sent the next day. Standard form language, professional, gentle, clear. I watched my inbox. He didn't reply. But I know he read it. You can always tell. A LinkedIn view popped up 2 days later under an anonymous profile. The kind people use when they don't want to be seen watching. He still wanted to see if I'd post something. He didn't understand I never needed to. Because revenge isn't always served loud. Sometimes it's just a locked door, and the sound of your name being absent. The third message didn't go through HR. It came directly to me, my Quiet Rise inbox. I hadn't checked it in days. It's not public, not indexed. It's only known to 3 people on my team and 1 lawyer. Subject line, "This will be the last time I reach out." I clicked it, not because I was curious, because I'd been expecting it. He started with formality. "Hi, Elise. I hope this finds you well." Then tone shift. "I know we left things broken. I've been thinking about what I walked away from and who I left behind. He didn't say daughter. He said who. I read the message silently, deliberately, in one breath. He said he'd followed the content for a while now. Said he knew the voice instantly. Said it felt like watching someone walk a tightrope with grace, but also with rage, as if he could decode me. He wrote, "I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know I see it now. What you've done, what you've built." Then this. I was wrong about you, about what you could be, and I'd understand if you never wanted to speak to me again. He ended it without a question. That was smart. Questions can be ignored, but open endings, they sit in you. He signed his name fully, as if that would carry some kind of legacy weight. No attachments, no resume this time. Just a self-styled confession, delivered 4 years and 7 figures too late. I stared at the blinking cursor. There was nothing to say, not because I didn't have words, because I didn't have time. He wanted acknowledgement, not forgiveness. He wanted to be seen. And I had built an entire brand on learning how to go unseen. I closed the tab. Didn't flag it, didn't archive it, just let it sit in the inbox, read and unresponded, and then I moved on. There were 3 contracts waiting for review, a licensing deal for a parenting module in Brazil, an outreach request from a women's reentry nonprofit, and a podcast invitation, this one from a publication I respected. I accepted the nonprofit and declined the podcast. I didn't need a microphone. I had systems. I had proof. I had something stronger than memory. I had structure. That night, I tucked Mara in. She asked if we could paint her room yellow soon. She said it felt like sunshine lives there when it's not outside. I said yes. Then I sat at my desk and began outlining a new course. Title: Quiet Conquest, Building in Private, Scaling in Peace. Module 1, When to Speak and When to Vanish. Module 2, Rejection as a Resource. Module 3, Why Silence Wins Long Term. I didn't think of him again until the next week, when his name came up in a group chat between 2 marketing advisors. They were discussing failed rebrands. One said, "There's this guy who tried to ride the single mom empowerment wave, but the audience didn't buy it. You can't fake that kind of pain." The other replied, "Yeah, someone said he used to date one. Guess he figured he'd coast off her credibility." I didn't say anything, just kept reading. He was failing quietly, trying to model what I built without understanding the rules, because the rules weren't about pain, they were about discipline, repetition, control. You don't post for revenge, you post because there's work to do, and eventually, the work becomes so big it speaks for you. 3 nights later, I scheduled the course launch. I used the same system I'd built years ago in the cold apartment, with the same file naming conventions, the same structuring grid, the same belief. You don't win when they apologize. You win when it wouldn't change anything if they did. The course launched at midnight. By 2:37 a.m., over 4,000 people had enrolled. No fanfare, no teaser campaign, just a soft newsletter mention and a pinned comment on a low-view tutorial video. That's all it took. When you build slowly and speak clearly, you don't need to shout. You just tap the glass and the room goes quiet. I watched the numbers roll in while Mara slept beside me on the couch. She had fallen asleep halfway through coloring a penguin with rainbow feathers, her markers still uncapped, one foot dangling off the blanket, her breath steady. I thought about waking her to move to bed. I didn't. Some moments are too whole to interrupt. That week, Quiet Rise was featured, again, this time in a Forbes list titled 10 Brands That Scaled Without a Single Selfie. They still didn't know my name. They credited the brand to an anonymous strategist with a clinical sense of narrative utility. They weren't wrong. Sienna texted me a screenshot. They called your content weaponized calm. You've become a genre. I didn't reply. She didn't expect me to. That Friday, I attended a kindergarten showcase at Mara's school. She stood in a line of 6-year-olds and recited a poem she'd written. Things I like penguins. I like clouds. I like snacks. I like quiet. She paused after that last line, looked up from her paper and smiled at me directly. Not the teacher, not the crowd. Me. That moment, clean, unforced, unbroadcast, was the kind of legacy I'd built for. Not revenge, not recognition, continuity. He sent one last message, weeks later. Just a subject line. You were right. No body, no signature. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I was closing on a house that month. Not a mansion, a home. Detached, modest, wide yard, good light, no echoes. Mara helped me pick the paint. She chose yellow for her room again, this time with a galaxy ceiling. The day we moved in, I stood in the middle of the kitchen and opened the original oatmeal video file, the one from that first week. Before the subscribers, before the system, before the silence became strategic. I watched the entire thing. I didn't flinch at the voice. I just noted the difference in breath control, posture, cadence. Back then, I sounded like someone who didn't know she was being recorded for posterity. Now, every frame is framed. That night, I uploaded a final video to the channel. No title, no thumbnail, just a plain gray screen with one line of white text. You don't need to tell them. Just make sure they see it. It got 2 million views in 4 days. The comment section filled with stories of people who rebuilt, stayed quiet, and scaled on principle. Not spite. One said, "This isn't content, it's instruction." Another, "I left my ex, took nothing. Now I own everything I built. Found you in the middle of it, thank you." And from someone anonymous. This was the kind of quiet that left echoes. I didn't respond. I never do. Because silence pays more than screaming ever could. Some names deserve to be forgotten, and some stories don't need a narrator.